This summer, a dark fantasy film shook Japan to the core. Its title, Attack on Titan. We go behind the scenes for an exclusive look at the blockbuster movie.
And action!
What we find in the studio is an unexpected filming method for our digitized world. All eyes are on Tokusatsu, a classic technique in Japanese movie making that utilizes monster suits and miniaturized sets.
People often call Tokusatsu tacky. I thought of how I could make it not tacky.
What's wrong with using Tokusatsu in miniatures? I wanted to pursue it.
I wanted to create a Tokusatsu film that could compete with Hollywood technology.
Tokusatsu is on the rise once again. We uncover what may be a renaissance in the modern film world. The promise of a new era. Attack on Titan is based on a best-selling comic series by Hajime Isayama. The series has sold over 50 million copies around the world. In the story, gigantic humanoid creatures, or titans, appear suddenly and devour most of the human race. Civilization as we know it is destroyed. In the peaceful town, the Titans are gradually forgotten. Until one day, when the peace comes to an abrupt end. Man-eating titans invade the city through a demolished wall. The humans engage in a desperate battle to retrieve the land taken by the Titans. Turning the original comic series into a live-action film was presumed to be impossible. How did the Japanese creators take on this great feat? Today, when a fantasy character makes an appearance in a movie, Hollywood generally turns to computer-generated imagery, spending an astronomical amount of time and money. But in the Japanese film industry, where budgets are a fraction of those in Hollywood, some creative savvy is necessary. Let's head backstage for a thorough look. First, we have the key character in the story, a colossal titan that is 120 meters tall. And inside we find a figure that is 2 meters in height. Up to 12 staff members control the head, arms, and body of the Titan with their own hands.
It's pretty tiring.
Even the slight facial movements are manipulated manually. Staff members are all in blue, to be erased later in post-production with the rest of the blue surfaces.
Quiet on the set. Ready? And action.
The filmmakers aim to create powerful scenes combining live-action segments with the latest in digital technology. We asked them about this method and the effects they hope to achieve. The film's director is Shinji Higuchi, a leading figure in Japanese epic movies. Directing the special effects scenes is 30-year veteran Katsuro Onoue.
It's not the most efficient method in the world, but we're always
This scene ends up being super slow motion. But during filming, the Titan raises its arm quickly. It's never going to go exactly where you expect it to, and the camera has to adjust quickly and swing up. You can't plan that angle out in advance. There's no power. I want you to squeeze the hand hard and push forward.
Okay.
7 to 12 actors repeat the process over and over. The repetition is needed to get it just right, but when it's right, it's beyond our expectations.
The colossal Titan demolishes the wall, opening up a path for the hungry Titans. The 15-meter Titans on screen are created by filming various actors of different build and digitally editing them. Prosthetic makeup has been applied to add to the eerie factor. The scenes shot in the studio are then edited digitally to add texture and depth. But real people...
It's crazy.
When I spoke with Mr. Isayama, the author, he said the Titans should be more disturbing than scary. So I thought it'd bother people most to have these human-like creatures creeping around.
We held auditions and had the actors take off their clothes. The minute they were unclothed, their uniqueness exploded out of them. It was amazing to see these people, fascinating and creepy. We needed to use that. I think the root of filmmaking is right there. I was racking my brain about how they should devour the humans. I asked the actors to eat the humans, and they all exaggerated. I thought, no, that's boring. And then I told them, imagine your favorite food, maybe sushi, running down the street, and you just pick it up and put it in your mouth. When they did that, it was terrifying. They just popped the people into their mouths. I knew I had it, that was the way to go for all of them.
We showed the other actors that scene, and they were all grossed out. So we knew we had it.
I would direct them by saying, pretend you're preschoolers fighting over a snack.
In the film's climax, a battle unfolds between the mighty Titans. The Titans are played by actors in rubber suits.
How cool. We decide what needs to be shot, but not in any particular order. We select the most interesting parts of the fight. It's not as choreographed as you may think.
When you talk to Mr. Isayama, who is a huge mixed martial arts fan, he gets fired up whenever he talks about it, like a switch turns on. I thought, wow, he's really passionate about it. How can we convey that? So I called the pro in to come fight for real.
The actor who plays one of the Titans is a professional fighter.
This works. This is good. Everyone laughed, so I assumed it went well. It was a success. It has to be done so seriously it's almost silly, in order to get that, yes, that's the one.
On the set of Attack on Titan, tokusatsu methods that existed long before computer graphics are seen with fresh eyes. The film, The War of the Gargantuas, was released in 1960. The special effects were directed by Eiji Tsuburaya. One of the creators of Godzilla, he was once called the god of tokusatsu. The 60s to early 70s were known as the golden age of tokusatsu. During this time, the techniques created by Tsuburaya and his fellow Japanese craftsmen were lauded around the world. Higuchi and Onoue grew up watching tokusatsu films. We ask if their childhood memories influence Attack on Titan in any way.
This is an adaptation of a popular comic series, and there was by no means an order to pay homage to Godzilla as a tokusatsu film, though it seems that way in the end. When I first read the series, I thought, this is the War of the Gargantuas. If you ask me whether I like or hate old tokusatsu, I like it. But people would never allow me to remake that. So I thought, what can I do and how can I incorporate tokusatsu elements?
That's important.
So cool.
By the mid-70s, the traditional filmmaking style had hit a wall. And as Japanese films began their decline, the craftsmen who made tokusatsu films began to lose their jobs. It was then that a young Higuchi participated in an amateur tokusatsu film, which started him on the path to becoming a filmmaker of the genre.
Historically speaking, we were in a long winter season. We were thrown into the Ice Age with nothing to welcome us.
We were thrown in, then left alone.
Though it's because of this Ice Age that we were allowed in the first place. If it was the Tsuburaya era at its peak, there would be no room for us.
Say one cocky thing and we would have been fired.
There are a few tokusatsu artisans on the set of Attack on Titan. These are people who worked during the golden age of the craft. Only a handful of them have managed to continue working. These plasters will become buildings to be destroyed by the Titans. In order for the buildings to collapse effectively, the right amount of water and plaster must be mixed, then shaped in a specific way. It's the kind of knowledge that can be gained only through years of experience, and just a few people possess it now. Incisions are made at just the right angles for a beautiful collapse.
Is this even interesting to watch?
An infinite variety of explosions are created by a gunpowder expert.
So cool.
Very.
People often call tokusatsu tacky, which I hate. I thought of how I could make it not tacky and realized I could use digital technology, which is why we incorporated it. And then people think, why don't you make it all digital then? And inside we're thinking, that's not our intention at all.
We ran and ran, and when we turned back, Tokusatsu no longer existed. I didn't think it would disappear like this. We hadn't calculated that. Suddenly, everything is digital, and thinking we can't let this happen, we've been trying to bring people back. It seems people are starting to notice it again, before the flames burned out completely, which is a relief.
The tokusatsu spirit is apparent in these scenes. The audience may not notice that the transport vehicles in the dark of night are actually miniatures. Life-sized vehicles were also created, but there was no room for the trucks to speed through the set.
As someone who's been doing tokusatsu for a while, I have to admit I'm thinking gotcha in several scenes.
The trucks are miniatures, and the people in the cars are figurines.
It thrills us as tokusatsu staff when people can't tell the difference. We're the only ones who know how much work went into that, and how thrilling it is when things go right.
As someone who loves tokusatsu, that's the most satisfying part of this job.
The vehicle has been made in several sizes to adapt to various filming situations.
The Titan is set up to look 15 meters tall, so the 1/9 scale is best. To give a sense of scale, and to make them not look like miniatures, bigger is better.
This is just a feeling, but at 1/10 scale, the smoke and dust make them look like miniatures. But at 1/6 scale, you start to not know the difference. The models do become heavier, so it's hard for people to move. I think it weighed over 100 kilograms.
The transport vehicles are a powerful presence on screen. The staff have poured their souls into the scene.
Action! Tokusatsu. It's like an eternal school festival.
I hope this isn't taken the wrong way, but these are all people who don't have to grow up. We'll do something on set and think, we're awesome!
Those moments are great, when we all cheer together.
This fall, Attack on Titan will be released in over 80 countries and territories worldwide. The world premiere was held in Hollywood.
Director here, Shinji Higuchi.
People might say, it's CG, right? Made inside a monitor. But no. I hope to create a world that makes people curious about how the film is made.
If young filmmakers who watch Attack on Titan get the idea that miniatures and tokusatsu might work for their films too, they might try it out and eventually learn the techniques.
The next generation of tokusatsu creators is already on the rise.
And go!
Kyotaka Taguchi is a young tokusatsu filmmaker who was born in 1980.
And
His fellow creators. The series pioneered TV tokusatsu. Next year will mark its 50th anniversary. Ultraman X is the latest in the series.
that's good.
Taguchi grew up at the height of digitalization, but he's been making monster movies using Japanese tokusatsu techniques since he was a student. This amateur film, which took 7 years to complete, led him to Shinji Higuchi and his directorial debut.
Director Shinji Higuchi is my mentor, and seeing his work made me want to pursue tokusatsu. At the same time, I realized recently that I'm walking in a different direction from where he and his team are headed. Higuchi-san doesn't believe in making miniatures obvious on film, and because he's positioned there, I can stick to my what's wrong with miniatures position. Ultraman airs weekly, and I think miniature tokusatsu and monster suits are right for it. The reason being that kids can go and meet their heroes and shake their hands. If what aired on TV was completely digital, it would be a bit different. Right now, if you watch Ultraman for half an hour, you can copy him right away, banging toys together.
Inspiration often strikes because the miniatures are visible and tangible. Taguchi believes new angles can still be found, even in a genre with this much history.
I don't think there's a better environment in Japan for tokusatsu right now.
Shinichi Oka is the president of Tsuburaya Productions, which produces the Ultraman series. What does the former tokusatsu cameraman see as the main draw of this analog craft?
On set, we only have one shot, and no one knows what will happen. Everything is finely calculated, yet the unexpected will always happen. But even the scenes that look like mistakes, we try to turn them into usable scenes. It exceeds our imaginations, which is where the excitement is. What's special about analog filmmaking is that the passion of the staff can be felt from the screen. The audience often says they sense a handmade warmth. And I believe that is an important element when creating anything.
In every episode, we line up the miniatures, and Ultraman and the monster fight in rubber suits, and somehow it never bores us. If that mystery was solved, things would be different. Maybe our human brains can determine the action as real, which intrigues us.
Perhaps within that ability of analog tokusatsu to appeal to human physiology lies something special that ask, does the brain perceive analog and digital differently?
Yes, it perceives the two differently. The brain interprets information subconsciously and tends to perceive the analog as more intriguing.
The human brain is able to process the slightest movement of objects faster than a supercomputer. Without the person even knowing it, Sawaguchi says the brain interprets information and deciphers activity immediately, then activates our emotions.
Computer graphics are made deliberately, taking away the brain's need to process it. With analog, on the other hand, our brains process the information naturally.
With a building collapse, for example, if we saw a perfectly executed collapse that has been made digitally, we think, wow, that CG is amazing, and it ends there. But if the perfectly crafted buildings were miniatures that collapsed in this interesting way, we're bound to think, wow, how did they do that? It's similar to fireworks. They're fun to watch because the sparks actually go off in front of us. No matter how fantastic the explosions are, it's pointless if they've been digitally manufactured.
In this scene, the monster appears to be flying in the sky, when in fact, it's still, while a small camera moves around it. Handcrafted tokusatsu triggers the viewer's curiosity about how a scene is being shot.
In the behind-the-scenes aspect of it.
Japanese tokusatsu, which once hung by a thread, is now being revived by innovative creators and their flood of new ideas.
And action!
It is indeed the Renaissance of tokusatsu. This year, a feature film for which Taguchi handled the tokusatsu was released. It's a heartwarming fantasy film called Love and Peace. The film was written and directed by Shion Sono, winner of numerous awards at European film festivals.
I wanted to create a tokusatsu film that could compete with Hollywood technology. That was important to me. I believe tokusatsu isn't about buildings being crushed, but how they're being crushed.
The protagonist in Love and Peace is a young man who dreams of becoming a musician and performing in a stadium. His only joy is to play with his turtle on a miniature set he's created. He takes his turtle to work and is mocked by his colleagues. He makes the rash decision to flush the turtle down the toilet. The climax is a tokusatsu scene in which a supersized turtle stomps his way to the man in the stadium. Shion Sono was born in the 60s during the tokusatsu golden age, but this is the first time he's incorporated this much tokusatsu into a film.
I do get a bit sentimental about tokusatsu. Everything is now digitized. So there's something electrifying about spending money on a miniature city and then letting a monster destroy it.
He says his film, a mix of fantasy and reality, needed a taste of the Japanese tokusatsu monster movie. Sono and Taguchi purposely selected a turtle costume that was cute, but made the miniature set as realistic as possible. This was partly an experiment.
When the turtle walks through the city, it's obvious there's a person inside of it. But the buildings surrounding it are completely real-looking.
Can be impressive too. But I didn't want to use cheap tactics to show a purposely sentimental or emotional scene, or try to create nostalgia in an obvious way. Having miniatures that look as realistic as possible is fun to watch. It gives us a sense of adventure.
Ready, go!
This film showed the many ways in which tokusatsu can touch an audience. Ritsumeikan University in Kyoto. We hear the school's film club has a promising young tokusatsu director. Who appears but Taguchi? Once an amateur tokusatsu filmmaker himself, he now finds time to help nurture and support promising students.
Nice to have this much space. Morning.
Good morning. Thank you for coming all this way.
Taisuke Aoi is 21 years old. He'll be graduating from college next year and dreams of becoming a professional tokusatsu director.
I held an event called the National Amateur Monster Movie Championship, and he was one of the contestants.
Yes, that's right.
There was a scene that made me ask, how'd he do that?
This is the scene that caught Taguchi's attention. These powerful explosions are Aoi at his best.
And cut! It's fun to think through the process and mechanisms. Whether the shot fails or succeeds, it always leads to new ideas for the next shot. As long as I have that, I'll keep making films, self-made or not.
Students can't afford to put zippers on the costumes, so they use string. That makes me smile. Ready, and clunk, 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 like a wave.
Rolling and action. You're roaring, you're roaring. Hold it and shoot. And cut. This shot is a go. Thank you, everyone.
Aoi's monster movie is steadily nearing completion. We return to the Tokyo studio, where Attack on Titan is being filmed. Here, too, we meet a young talent with hopes of becoming a tokusatsu director. Naoki Ishii is 24 years old. After graduating from college in the Kansai area, his miniature making skill He arrives home from the studio late at night. He currently lives on his own in this apartment.
Welcome.
Miniatures line his room. He's made each of these on his own time for a film he's shooting.
I made this train for an amateur film called Godzilla vs. King Deathra, my 4th year in college. It's a train that runs in Osaka. I had no money, so I made it out of paper from scratch.
These are all miniatures. Ishii reproduced his hometown for the film he showed at his school festival. And this is the film. His detailed use of miniatures intrigued the tokusatsu professional, leading to Ishii's current job. Ishii is hard at work every day on a professional set. But unlike most of his friends, his dream is not to become a blockbuster filmmaker.
Films. So I think anyone, anywhere, can make new, impressive films. Many small films are currently being shot and distributed in the Kansai area. So I hope to learn everything I can from this professional tokusatsu environment in Tokyo and eventually move back to Kansai. And no matter how small, I hope to create an environment where film can be created using miniatures. That's my current dream.
Higuchi-san once said there's a 10-year cycle, that I came up 10 years after him. And now I'm in my 30s, and people in their 20s are starting to make their own independent tokusatsu films. When the current college students gain more experience, and then come together later in their 30s to create something, it will be tremendous.
Time passes and society transitions, but the authentic lives on. There's currently a generation of young creators who are discovering the magic of tokusatsu and wish to pass it on to the wider world.
All I can say is, if you're trying to compete with Hollywood, you're already losing. I think Tokusatsu is the only thing that can stand on the same playing field as Hollywood. Maximizing Tokusatsu is the wise way to go, not chasing Hollywood.
Not to get too nostalgic, but I think there's great potential for this to become an option for up-and-coming filmmakers.
I believe there are people around the world who'd be intrigued by Japanese